Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this important celebration and launch of our partnership with each of the 5 sovereign tribal nations within the state of Connecticut to develop and curate an inclusive Native American Studies model curriculum. On behalf of Commissioner Russell Tucker, who is out of state today, we recognize the many important voices in this room to support the ongoing work of Connecticut and the Department of Education to ensure that all learners have access to model curricula that is relevant, high quality, and inclusive. Her visionary leadership pushes us every day to recognize that the sky is not the limit when it comes to creating resources for our students and teachers. We are one of the first states in the nation to develop such a curriculum for use in all of our schools. We are honored to have our Native tribal voices included in the development process. As the state's Chief Academic Officer, my office within the CSDE is charged with developing and designing high-quality curriculum materials for districts and educators to use at no cost since April of 2022. We have been releasing new model curricula since then, mostly on a quarterly basis, and through our Go Open Connecticut digital library platform, again ensuring access at no cost. Closely involved in this work, I'd like to recognize our social studies education consultant, Stephen Armstrong, and academic project manager, Paul Castiglione. As with all curricula, we design and develop resources with many representatives and community voices and subject matter experts. This is why we respectfully engage in this partnership with our tribal nations. In doing so, we can uplift the stories of all of our 5 recognized tribes and make a promise that they are included in this curriculum. We want to ensure our students here in Connecticut have a strong understanding of their wisdom, perspectives, and contributions of diverse cultures and tribal nations both here in Connecticut and nationwide. It is part of our collective history and deserves to be an integral part of the narrative and story here in Connecticut. It is my honor now to recognize our partners from the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation as they graciously provide an opening prayer and music. I would like to recognize Laughing Woman, spiritual leader, Vice Chair of the Elder Council, and Marjorie Colbert Jackson, Chairwoman of the Elder Council.
Good morning. Nakishkia. Greetings to Governor Lamont, the state education officials, tribal dignitaries, and greetings to all that are present here today. We're here today to celebrate and to lift up a prayer, to celebrate and discuss partnership to create a curriculum with a focus on Connecticut's Native American tribal nations. Let us pray. Tabatni mundu, chipapu, tupiyanta mekmishudu, kutawes and kenu tapiyanta moka, machasi. We exalt you, O great chief of all, great creator guard of earth, sky, stars, the wind, the rain, the snow, and created all that has breath. We give thanks for allowing us to come through the fire. We thank you for our ancient ones, our elders, our language, the songs and dances. We thank you for the peoples of the 4 directions, black, white, yellow, and red. Help us all to become more respected of each other, to practice more love, O great chief. Practice forgiveness. Mandu wanatam mahmusiya, wani ginash michikame. Bless everyone forever and ever. Nino ambiyahantan newachi nishkuten power. Tabatni kutabaramisha nawachi wami winomio. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, you are whole and amen. The
An honoring song for all of our Connecticut tribal relatives.
Thank you so very much, Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation. Next, we will have Senator Austin, a noted advocate for Connecticut tribes, to share a few words.
So good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to see you all here today. And what gives me the best pleasure of all was to finally get tribal curriculum passed in the state of Connecticut and have it recognized and finally teach people our true history. And that's what this is all about, teaching people what really our history is all about. That we have 5 sovereign tribal nations here in the state of Connecticut. That if we looked at our history, we would recognize the fact that the people that were here first had developed cultures and religions and governments, that we need to recognize that and give them the respect that has been long overdue. Of all of the different pieces of legislation that we have passed in the General Assembly recently relative to tribal nations, this is the most important piece. The most important piece, because it recognizes where we stand today and that we will no longer silence the voices of those that were here first. I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank the governor for coming today to give that stamp of approval for recognizing our past for what it is. I also want to thank the governor for comments that he made during one of his last debates when he said that if it offends our tribal nations, we should address the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Austin. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Vice Chairwoman Beth Reagan to share a few words as the Mohegan Tribal Vice Chairwoman.
Kataptom Tamauj, Laughing Woman, and to the singers and dance and drummers, I should say, from Mashantucket for those beautiful words and for your beautiful song. Thank you, Senator Austin, as well. Kataptom Tamayamun, Wamiskitambak, Cha, Kwa, Kuikwasan. I said hello to Nitompak, all our friends. Good morning and welcome. First, I'd like to say Kataptom Tamayamun to my ancestors, for whom without I would not be here today, nor would any of our tribal nations be here today. So I say thank you. I also say Kataptom Tamayamun to our 5 tribal nations, and I welcome Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Golden Hill Pecusset, and Schaghticoke. Thank you very much. More than 20 years ago, in the midst of my teaching career, I became very frustrated teaching American history and social studies that lacked the voice of indigenous Native people. So I approached my tribe, the Mohegan tribe, our council of elders, our tribal council, our historian, our cultural department, and I told them about this. And they said, well, let's create the class. Why not create a class? So with the help of my administration, where I taught at Tolland High School, and the Mohegan tribe, we did just that. We did just that. And so I'm very honored to share that with you. But it wasn't enough. So just because some students could learn about their indigenous history here in the state, we believe that all of our students should. So that is why today is such a good day. Now, with implementing Native curriculum into our social studies curriculum, now all Connecticut students can learn about our roots through the voices of our people, not through the colonizer's voice, but through the voices that have been left out, to tell our true, tragic, yet also very wonderful history in many ways, our culture and our ways. So I'm very happy to say that and happy to share that with you. You know, students want to learn. Students want to learn about who we are. Teachers want to teach about who we are, but they need the training and resources. And so we are here today to say that we are going to provide that. And we at Mohegan are honored to be a part of this as well. We have been teaching about Mohegan and providing curriculum for decades, but we now stand poised and ready in conjunction with our sister nations and the state of Connecticut, the State Department of Education, and our governor to move forward more in this direction in a collaborative way. So the Mohegan tribe and I say Kataptom Tamayamun. I'm grateful to be here today and represent our tribe, and I'm grateful to let you know that we stand ready and poised to share our resources, which we have already developed and begun to share with our Connecticut State Department of Education. We have shared with numerous school districts throughout the state, homeschoolers and educators alike, and we move forward and we move collaboratively together. So Kataptom Tamayamun to all, and thank you for this day. It is a new day. Iach.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman Beth Reagan of the Mohegan Tribe Council of Elders. Now I have the pleasure of introducing to you Vice Chairwoman of the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation, Latoya Clough.
Good morning, everyone. It's such an honor to be here today. It's a really monumental moment for what's going to take place. When you think of today, this month alone, Native American Heritage Month, today being the last day we end on making this formal announcement. It's such a huge mark in our history moving forward. we look to all that many of the students throughout the state will be learning about our culture, about our history. But I would also like to take the time to say thank you to all of you that are here today, to the many people who are not here today but also supported this initiative. Again, we have our tribal elders here with us, or some of them rather, our drum group, and also our state supporters and our other recognized tribes here throughout the state. The last time I was here in this building, I actually spoke on this initiative amongst myself and 2 other family members that are here today. And we spoke about the importance of our culture and our history. We spoke about how it's needed to be shared within the state throughout the school curriculum. And again, today it's happening. We're making this announcement, and we could not be more excited to share this news with you all. Just a brief little history. Back in 2019, NCAI, National Congress of American Indians, did a study. And from that study, it was shared that only 80% of the state had no mention of tribal history after the year of 1900. Even furthermore, 27 states had no mention whatsoever in their K through 12 curriculum. So again, with the passing of this bill, it is now going to be included, and we are just excited to share with you all our culture and our history, and we thank everyone for their participation and their efforts. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman Clough. I'd like to recall for a moment Vice Chairwoman Beth Reagan of Mohegan Tribe.
In my excitement of this day, I forgot that I wanted to gift to the governor for leading this effort one of our quahog wampum shells that also has a turtle on it to represent our creation story. So now all of our students will be able to learn why this is so and what this is so. So I wanted to do that. Governor, please. Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, I'd now like to call up Eastern Pequot Tribal Chairman Mitchell Ray.
Real brief, on behalf of the Eastern Pequot Tribal Nation, we'd like to thank you for moving this legislation forward. We acknowledge the importance of this historic legislation for our history, passing it on to the teachers and getting it into the hands of the students to be able to learn more about what an Eastern Pequot is and what this land, Connecticut, means to an Eastern Pequot. So Katapatash, thank you to the legislators, thank you to Governor Lamont for pushing this law forward, and we look forward to working with the Department of Education and moving this curriculum forward. Katapatash, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Mitchell Ray. At this time, we would like to give the podium over to other tribal leaders that are present with us to share a few words, if there are any. It is now my honor to introduce the Governor of Connecticut, Ned Lamont, who has been critical in ensuring the formation of this partnership and the development of model curricula for use statewide. Governor Lamont.
Good morning, everybody, and as Beth said, it's a new day. Yach? Yach. It's a new day. And I'll tell you why I think this is so important for a Native American as well as, all Connecticut. And it was a long time coming. And that's maybe part of what the tortoise is all about. This took a long time to get there, and we're there. And just explained to me this was also the form of currency. And what this has double meaning. Look, I'm somebody that loves history, and I've always appreciated the phrase, we all came to America on different ships, but we're all in the same boat. And not necessarily all in the same boat, but I love the spirit of what that means. And you're not going to understand what it is to be an American until we understand our history. And history didn't start with the Pilgrims at Plymouth in 1621. And history, we all have our own story to tell. Every culture has its own story. And I think it's important for young people with a different background to know what that history was. And some people came in slave ships, some fled famine, some fled persecution and poverty in the Rio Grande. And, Native Americans, they got here first over the Bering Strait. And their history is rich a part of American history. And look, we often think of Connecticut as the gateway to New England. We got New London, we got New Britain, and that's where it started. That's not where it started. We also have here Quinnipiac and Hammonasset and Tunxus and Connecticut, which just was learned is Algonquin for Long Tribal River. And that's just a reminder how deep Native American history is in our culture, in our history. And I'm really proud that, Kathy took the lead on this. Kathy Austin, special appreciation of the meeting. And now Senator Jan Hockadell, back when she was representing the teachers, knows that this is going to be part of our curriculum. And I'm going to start off, when it comes to, I say, part of our curriculum, I think it's part of our overall social studies curriculum. Native American history is about Native Americans and young people like you learning about the incredible struggles, maybe, Pequots went through, but also some of the amazing things that happened, and thanks to the Pequot Nation. And it's also important for all of our kids. It's important for my kids, or probably grandkids at this point, to understand what makes the diversity of America, what makes it strong. And that's why, while we all came on different ships, we are in the same boat. And our curriculum is going to remind people of that. It's going to be built into our social studies curriculum. Election, optional for those that really want, but I want more broadly people to understand that Native American history is American history, and we're going to teach it as such. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Governor Lamont. At this time, we would like to ask for a drum closing of an honor song for us, and maybe Laughing Woman.
Hey,
Thank you again for everyone joining us and being here today to launch this important partnership in this work. Truly grateful. At this time, we will take media questions that are on topic.
Can you tell us how widely utilized this new curriculum is?
So there are pockets of use right now across the state because there's different partnerships with the different tribes. But for us as a State Department of Ed, our aim is that this will be widely used statewide once we release, and our aim is January of 2024.
So the law mandated the creation of the curriculum, but does not mandate its use, correct?
Correct. But we expect that having such critical resources, important resources, as you heard today, that are so authentic, that we expect that teachers will use this with confidence and now being able to share these stories.
Will there be links to the public so people like me say can look see what
Great question, absolutely. We are, as a Department of Ed, are a Go Open state, which means we provide open education resources because we want access anytime, anywhere, and at no cost. So through our Go Open CT platform, and certainly in partnership with the other portals that the tribes create, there will be links to all of those resources.
Are there portals with the DOE or the tribes at this point? Yes.
Yes, there isn't one in existence, I believe, right?
Yes, we do. We have one.
You-
Thank you. The Mohegan Tribe now has an Educators Project, which is a portal of online resources available to all educators in our state, as well as homeschoolers. This includes, right now, at this point, Mohegan history, culture. It is audio, visual, print resource, all of it. And we are growing and expanding as we speak. Since we did hire a new director of curriculum and instruction for Mohegan, in partnership with our other tribes, we will be expanding that curriculum to include even more. But it is available now. Thank you. You can go to our website and find it.
And particular grade levels?
So our aim is K-12, but we're designing it now, what our project plan is for which grade bands we start, because we want to be mindful of the other curriculum that we've released for classroom teachers. And we want to be intentional about what PD could be provided to teachers because, again, it's important to respect these resources and implement them and use them in the most respectful way in the classroom.
And is there anything in the DOE portal at this point for the public to look at?
For Native American Studies, not at this time. That's why this event was so important, so that we're essentially asking for permission to partner and to use these resources going forward. So I would expect very soon, with the resources that are already available, we can make them available in our Go Open CT portal.
Does the curriculum cover a certain period historically, or is it right up to date, start with colonial times, pre-colonial?
It's the past, present, and future. It's going to, yes, exactly.
Does the curriculum address some of the cultural struggles right now about the use of mascots and whatnot?
I think there's more to determine as we bring in now the tribal leaders, the curriculum directors of each tribe, as well as our own team, educators. We've already been talking with teachers statewide, and they're raising those topics. And how do we make that relevant in our curriculum? Because yes, we have to recognize the struggles, but then also take time to celebrate as well.
How does this curriculum treat the Treaty of Hartford?
I think that's part of the design to really understand that has come up by our teacher colleagues, and so we just need that time at the table with everyone to understand how best to plan for that for that curriculum.
The tribal representatives want to comment on that? How do you want to see that treated in this curriculum?
As a Pequot, we'd like to use this as a learning tool, as to not repeat history. We saw a lot of devastation happen with the Treaty of Hartford. I just want to back up because there are some resources for some of our history. We worked extensively with Yale. It was called the Yale Paper Indian Project. Because they ran out of grant funding, they reopened it as the Native Northeast portal. So you can go to that website and you'll be able to see tons and tons of documents about Eastern Pequots, Western Pequots, Mohegans, Schaghticoke, Golden Hill. So it's a wealth of information to start right there. Thank you.
I will also add, at Mashantucket, we do celebrate the survival of the Pequot. It's Pequot Day, and we do read the Treaty of Hartford there, and let our ancestors know that we stand on the ground at our land, which they came from, and that we teach our children to be proud, even though we do have the Treaty of Hartford, that we are one nation of people here among other nations of races, and that we are proud to live here in Connecticut on our ancestral land and still be able to have neighbors such as the Mohegan, the state of Connecticut, and as well as our youth going up in these Connecticut schools to keep the peace and still keep our culture and history. So please come and join Mashantucket through the museum that we teach this as well. Thank you.
Governor, this situation calls to mind the whole...
Someone else's question.
Just one more point, or a few more points on the Treaty of Hartford. I would hope that when history is taught accurately as a result of this collective effort, that the Treaty of Hartford won't be referred to as a treaty, despite that being its historic name. A treaty is a signed agreement between two sovereign governments. That is not what the Treaty of Hartford is. And although you obviously can't teach this to children in 3rd or 4th grade, the Treaty of Hartford also represents one of the very few documented cases of state-sanctioned genocide in American history or history anywhere else, for that matter. And so there are pieces of it that will not be appropriate for younger audiences, but hopefully when young people get to high school or college age where emotionally they can handle the truth, we really hope it will be taught in that way. Because those are the things that the Treaty of Hartford represents from our point of view, and that shouldn't erase other people's point of view, but nor should it be ignored. I'm Michael Thomas, Mashantucket Pequot.
Governor, I was about to say, this occasion calls to mind the discussion of the John Mason statue and what should happen with that, the one that's on the facade of the state capitol. Just wondered where you stood on that. There was discussion about it about a year ago. I guess the commission really took no position on whether it should come down and be moved. Just wondered what your feeling was on that.
I needed a Native American curriculum when I was studying history. I don't know as much as I should about the Treaty of Hartford, John Mason. I understand John Mason is incredibly offensive to, at least one of our tribes, Native Americans, and we ought to take a hard look at that.
Well, what about the freeze of the actual attack on the village? I mean, you can take that statue down, but there's a freeze on that building that commemorates that attack. And next to John Mason is the governor who was responsible for the Treaty of Hartford. He's not coming down.
I don't really know. I mean, I can tell you can probably point to a lot of those statues, you can point to a lot of history, and point to a lot of murals that are incredibly offensive. The question is, are they also learning moments, or are they disqualifying?
Thanks, everybody.
Good? Thanks, everybody. Well, a minute. Almost.
You have to let the old people speak. Today, I'm reminding everyone, today is a new day. We prayed. We asked for guidance. We asked the Creator to help us all to deal with a big word, two of them. Love, number one, which is the greatest gift of all from the Creator. Forgiveness. I did not think I would live to see the day where the Mohegan tribe and the Pequot tribe working together. Why is that important? Years ago, before any of this was going on, I went with your medicine person at Fort Chuntuck. We had a hatchet, and I hesitated but because we prayed together, we buried that hatchet. Now, it will not wipe out history. It still hurts us very much about the massacre of our people. We became the first slaves in America. It wasn't the blacks, it was Pequots that were sent everywhere. It was a form of genocide. There are a lot of emotions. That's why this history that is being taught now, going to be taught in the schools, let's tell it the way it was. It's going to be hurtful, but it is important to speak the truth and not dress it up. It was not only the Mohegan tribe that helped with the massacre, or Mason. It were Mohawks, I can go on down the list, that were asked to come and massacre our people. But God had a plan, and he rose us up from the ashes. That's why we give him honor. That's why we give him praise. We will never forget the atrocities and the genocide which is still going on with Native American people. But in order to move on, you have to be able, we may not agree, we may never agree with each other, but we have to be respectful of each other and listen. And please listen carefully to our story. We want to tell our own story, not what is already written down. Our elders, what they have passed on in each clan family on our reservation, we want to share our story and the truth. And so I felt sorry for you because you were put on the hot seat here for a split moment, which is all right because you can learn too from the curriculum. All right? So let's pray for peace, for unity. It doesn't come easy. And this is a beginning, a new day. It's history making. And I praise God at my age that I was able to live to see this day. I couldn't imagine this ever happening or in the schools at all. So thank you for listening to me. Okay, and be blessed.
I can just get a quick second. Wayne Reels, Director of Cultural Resources for Mashantucket Pequot Tribe. This is really an historical moment. I deal with history, mainly Pequot history. Within our tribe, we teach our children history. I guess you can say our version of history. As I deal with history, there's a lot of conflicts in the writing of the history. You can look at even the Pequot massacre in Mystic. You can have Mason writing one thing and Underhill writing another thing. That kind of conflicts with the actual events that happened according to them at the site. So we deal with a lot of history, and our version of history, our story, it's just our story. It's the way we see it. The reason why we have different versions because different eyes see different things. But it's our story on our history. We're not looking for reparations. We're not trying to cancel culture. We're not, as far as the, I guess it's the little Mystic Massacre, we call it, on the state capitol. That's part of the history. And there's two stories to that history. We could take away everything Pequot here. Wolf Jackson was instrumental in removing the statue off the site of our massacre of Mason and Mystic years ago. Years ago, we said, well, on May 26th, we wanted to recognize our people who were slaughtered and massacred. So we took a group of Native Americans. There was a representative from each tribe. There was a representative from Mohegan, Schaghticoke,
Pagusset, Mashantucket, and Easton. And we went up to the site of the statue. This was in the early 90s. I'm not sure what was it, 90 or something. But we went up there with the intent, Moonface Bear, myself, Wolf, Laughing Woman, a few of her Mohegan friends. And we just went up there unannounced, 5 o'clock in the morning at daybreak when it happened. And we went up there with the intent of singing memorial songs and paying tribute to our fallen people. And at the time we went there, we didn't have a permit. Public, if you can imagine, if you've ever been to the actual Pequot Avenue, it's a very nice neighborhood right now where the massacre was. So as we were drumming, people came out of the house in their bathrobes and their slippers, and they gathered around the drum. And we didn't know what to make of it. We didn't really know but then they started saying, yes, we don't want the statue here, take it down. We wasn't even thinking about taking down the statue. That wasn't the reason why we were there, so we were looking like, we were kind of confused. They thought we was there to protest the statue, take down the statue. But from that, they called the police and everything. The police came. Somebody called the police, and the people outside said, no, they're not bothering nobody, let them stay, let them carry on their memorial. So we went on with our memorial. But from that, Wolf Jackson took up a fight in a coalition with a lot of people, a lot of groups, and the statue was removed. I could see the statue being removed from that site because it's an offensive site for us to go to. And we go there every year, and we do our ceremonial feedings and recognitions at that site. To see a statue of a man responsible for massacring us with a sword in that manner of the statue was really offensive to us at the site. We was okay with you bringing it somewhere else, because that's history. Because you can say, well, he's got a statue of himself conquering the Pequots, and we can say, well, that's a statue of himself massacring the Pequots. There's two sides to the story. Both sides need to be told, and that's what we're doing here. We're not saying one thing's right, one thing's wrong. We could conflict a little bit with the Mohegans in our story or history, and we're known to be one people. But the origins, as it's passed down orally, stories might conflict. But we're not here to cancel culture. We're not saying, myself, I don't believe that we should take down that depiction on the State House because it has two stories to it. And it's not on offensive land, although the Pequots pretty much our stronghold was New London County, Namiyug. But Quanitucket was really, mainly we had control through tributaries. They were tributary, a lot of the tribes were tributary to us. That's why we were able to give land up on the Connecticut River to the Dutch, which wasn't our land, but they were tributary to us, the tribes there. So it was okay, but that's the history. History has two sides to it. We can't cancel it. And we can't say, well, we want reparations. The only reparations we want from history is not repeated, moving forward. We don't want anything from the past. Nobody here is responsible for killing any Pequot in the massacre. But if we go on canceling our culture, just ignoring it and not telling the truth about it, then you're responsible. We can only be responsible for what we do today. We can't be responsible for what happened yesterday unless we agree with it and we know it's wrong. So this is a great moment for us to work together, to look at history and say, well, this is our story and this is our story, and say, that's fine. But people know. It's in the museum, when people go to our museum, we tell our story. They may not agree with our story, but that's our story. And that story that's told. So to get a story out there with two sides or three sides to it or four sides to it, and I deal with that in Indian country. Every dance in Indian country has about 4 or 5 different origins to it, or where it came from and what it means. But we all dance to the same song, we all dance dressed the same way, and we all dance to the same beat. At the end of the day, the Creator gave us things in different ways, but for the same meaning for us to do things together. And this is where we're at right here. So thank you for your time, and thank you for this moment. Wayne Reels, Director of Cultural Resources for the Mashantucket Tribe. Thank you.
If I could add one point, Wayne is also a member of the Board of Directors for the Mashantucket Pequot Museum and Research Center, as am I. And I just wanted to follow our spiritual leader to close with a little bit of optimism, because that's what I heard in her last comment. And make sure that you understand, as ugly as all of this history may be at certain points, that healing is possible if we're simply allowed to share the truth that relatives from different tribes have made reference to here today. And so I want you to know that a few years ago, and there may be relatives here who know more detail than I, but a few years ago, we received a letter from one of the descendants of John Mason apologizing for the things that had happened historically. And that is the first step toward healing from our perspective. And so the media gives all of the attention to the Mason descendants who want more statues, who want the one back in Mystic, and they'd like to have 100 of them if you talk to one segment of Mason descendants. But this young lady actually gave us a written, heartfelt apology and acknowledgement. And that is what the result of this curriculum partnership will be in a lot of areas. Healing will become possible for the first time ever, and truth is the only path to get there.
Yes, I think we are. Thank you again so much. We are now closed.
Thank you so much.